today to discuss my recent resolution here in the House, H-Res 673, which expresses concern over attacks on the Coptic Christians in Egypt. I had the opportunity to travel to Egypt last year. In the course of preparing for that trip and during the trip, as well as after I returned back to the United States, I repeatedly heard about the plight of Coptic Christians in Egypt. Now, ISIS named the Copts their #1 target, and we all know the brutal atrocities against them. In Libya, back in 2015, ISIS beheaded 21 Coptic Christians, sending shockwaves from that photo around the world. Scores were killed in the bombings of St. Peter and St. Paul Church in Cairo in December 2016. And most recently, on December 29th, 11 were shot and killed outside St. Manas Church in Hilwan. These are just a few of the atrocities carried out against Copts by terrorist groups like ISIS. I had the opportunity to walk the halls of St. Peter and St. Paul Cathedral. I reflected on the Gospel of Matthew when Mary fled to Egypt with the baby Jesus to save him from King Herod. The Copts are the Egyptians. In fact, the word Coptic in Greek means Egyptian. But there in St. Peter and St. Paul's beautiful cathedral in Cairo, murdered by a coward as women and children prayed, blood splattered on the walls marked the horror and chaos of that place of worship and serenity. Although Coptic Christians have been repeatedly victims of numerous attacks from terrorist groups and extremists, it has been most disturbing to me to learn of the attacks carried out against Copts and Christian churches that are carried out by their fellow Egyptians. On December 22nd, 2017, just after Friday prayers, dozens of Muslims assaulted a Coptic Christian church south of Cairo in an act that started out as a demonstration. While unsanctioned by the Egyptian government, this church had been holding services for some 15 years. According to reports, the individuals called for the church's demolition, destroyed its contents, and assaulted those worshiping outside. Based on similar attacks, it's unlikely, Mr. Speaker, that the Egyptian government will hold those perpetrators accountable for this egregious action. And this is just the most recent example of the ongoing trend of assaults on Copts, their churches, and their property. I believe that many of us in Congress were pleased to see Egyptian President El-Sisi join Coptic Pope in participating in just last Saturday's Orthodox Christmas Mass at the recently opened Nativity of Christ Cathedral in Egypt's new administrative capital east of Cairo. President El-Sisi's words of tolerance and hope are appreciated by all those who respect peace for all those who live in Egypt and all who favor religious freedom across the globe. However, while President El-Sisi spoke words of tolerance, there are, in my view, greater actions that both he and the Egyptian government can take to protect the rights of Egyptian Christians, seeking merely to raise their families, pursue their work, respect their leaders, and love their ancient nation. For this reason, I introduced House Resolution H-673 to urge continued progress in the religious tolerance in this very important country. There are many constructive steps that will enhance tolerance, provide better security for Christians, and improve the education and opportunities for all Egyptians. My colleagues and I offer this resolution because of our long friendship and partnership with Egypt. We're partners in regional peace efforts, regional economic growth, and in our mutual desire to defeat militant terrorist groups and nations and those who finance them. President el-Sisi has set the right tone at the top level of his government, and I believe he has a respectful partnership with the leadership of the Copts and other Christians in Egypt. But that respect and the resulting legal protections must be passed down to all levels of government and society, because the streets sadly tell a different story. The Egyptian people are a proud people with an extraordinary civilization, and I believe this is a great opportunity for Egypt to emphasize the importance that Copts can play in Egyptian society as full Egyptian citizens. As the Coptic Pope told me on my visit to Cairo, all Egyptians, Muslim and Christian, take their water from the Nile. Egypt is an essential partner in the efforts towards a lasting peace between Israel and her neighbors, and in the fight against terrorism and violent extremism. President el-Sisi told me directly on 2 occasions how important counterterrorism is to the Egyptian government. It's their #1 concern without any doubt. And I commend the President for his partnership with the United States, and especially with Israel, in that field of counterterrorism. ISIS carrying out 2 terrorist attacks last year in Egypt within a month of each other in November and December that killed Muslims and Christians. The Egyptian government's concerns about terrorism are legitimate and real. However, in my view, I do not believe Egypt's march towards modernization and progress and focusing on counterterrorism should come at the cost of sacrificing advances in human rights, education, and religious freedom. I urge swift consideration of my resolution by the House Foreign Affairs Committee and on the floor of the House so that we can continue to advance religious freedom and civil society with our partner, Egypt. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I yield back the